So our first tip that we want to look at is to make sure that you have a dedicated workspace. So I'm sure some of you are probably, lounging around right now, pretty comfortable, but what you want to do is make sure that you're setting up a clear space, clear your head, so that you know you're not going to have distractions of people walking around behind you. And I know that maybe we don't always have that every day. Maybe you are the oldest sibling in your house and you've got younger ones running around in the background. It's going to happen, especially as teachers. I'm sure you've even seen it before, guys, where you're sitting in a classroom with your teacher in a Zoom meeting and their kid has to run in and ask for help. It's going to happen. But what you want to do is try to set up the same space every day. Some things that you want to make sure you always have is that solid background for virtual learning. The cleaner it can be, behind you, the less distractions that there are for other students that are going to be in the room if your camera is on. Always have that device charger. Don't wait until you're at 2% and then you're going to run around the house trying to figure out where your charger is or who has it and try to get it back from a brother or sister or something. I have the backpack on here because yes, you're not going to be traveling, passing period, every day, but make sure that you keep your materials together. Maybe you're going to be working at the kitchen table every day, but your mom doesn't want you to leave everything just laying around. So you still want to function in a normal routine. So grab that backpack, keep everything in there at the end of the day, and then put everything away. Having headphones is going to be something that your teachers will probably say that you're going to benefit from because it's going to make sure that your audio quality is sufficient and it kind of tunes everything out in the background. It also says no snacks, and I'll explain a little bit later why your dedicated workspace is not necessarily the place for snacks. So in this dedicated workspace, some supplies, we talked to a few different teachers. And if there happen to be any teachers that want to kind of jump in and add anything here, please feel free to. But some of those must-haves that they said. And so guys, I hope you're making note of this along the way. We're going to make sure that the presentation is available for you later. And we do, in fact, have a Google site that we've set up where we're going to be able to put these 5 tips for you. But at the most basic level, every teacher that I talked to said must-haves are just paper and pencil. Have that ready to go. Okay, so you're not going to go out and have to have all kinds of extra supplies that you normally would in the general classroom setting, just some paper and some pencils. But some of those things that are nice to have is a calculator. And if this isn't going to be possible for you, again, just like all of the teachers just said, you've got to speak up. So if you're running into an issue where you don't have the necessary materials to feel successful, speak up to that math teacher and ask, what can I do? How can you help me to make sure that I can get this assignment done? Another thing is a printer. And what we heard a lot of teachers say was, if you're going to be looking at that computer screen for 8 hours a day, that is going to strain your eyes. And so you want to sometimes, especially let's talk about English class as an example, be able to print out a story or a poem or an essay that they have for you. It's never going to be required, but sometimes it's just going to be nice to have that. Another recommendation is a dry erase board and dry erase markers, or something that's going to work also just, again, the paper and pencil, but then you're going to go through a lot of paper. During a class discussion, teacher might ask a question. Maybe they want you to pause and think about something just like you would if you were in the class. And instead of having to raise your hand or get the opportunity to go up to the board, you can jot down your answer, draw a picture, write a number, whatever it might be, onto that board, and everybody can hold it up and show to the screen. But again, that's just one of those, it's nice to have that. It's not going to be required. The last thing that's nice to have around is a phone or a tablet stand. Those of you who are using a handheld device, you may not always notice it, but as the presenter, we get all kinds of different views from people when we're in a meeting, and sometimes people forget that they're on a phone and you've got it down low, and honestly everybody is looking up your nose. So having that phone or tablet stand is going to give you that option to be able to keep it standing up and it's steady, and it's one less thing to have to worry about. Oops. Okay, this one has already been touched on a bit by our teachers, and so I'm glad we added it in here. The second tip that we want to give you is communication. So it was Miss Preston earlier that mentioned Schoology. So through Schoology, you're going to be able to message your teachers, and it's very easy. It's a little icon up at the top of the screen. Shoot them a message. And the word that she used was advocate. And so if you've never heard that word before, advocate, it means that you are the person that's responsible for speaking up for yourself. So you've heard it plenty of times before. Your teacher says, well, I have 150 other students that I'm also having to give my devotion and attention to. So please make sure that you're doing your part and you're going to meet them halfway. Speak up anytime that you need help. So it says on here, don't wait. Please don't wait until the very end of the grading cycle and then say, well, I've been lost for about 3 weeks now. So you've got to speak up as soon as that issue comes up. And I'm not sure which one of our teachers said it, but they said, if you've got a question, odds are there's probably a good handful of other students who have that exact same question. And so once one person speaks up, and then all of a sudden everybody else is ready to chime in and say, yeah, well, I've actually been wondering the same thing. I was confused about that. So please don't ever be afraid, especially in this new setting, to speak up and ask questions along the way. All right, our third is online etiquette. So some simple things to keep in mind is when you've got a Google Meets going on, your teacher wants to get the whole class together, there's a few things to keep in mind. And when you first met with your small group for your first session at 1 o'clock, they talked about these norms. And one was to mute your mic until you're ready to speak, and the other is to leave your camera on. Your teacher wants to see you. So we want to see faces. We want to see that interaction in the body language to make sure we get the head nod or we get a thumbs up. It's going to be really easy if a teacher has 25 kids in a class to say, give me a thumbs up if we're good. And if you're not, I need to know that also. So we want to have that interaction, preferably, if you can, with your camera on. Don't be, embarrassed about, well, I just woke up, I rolled out of bed. We're going to talk about that part later just a little bit, okay? Let's see, questions. We just talked about communication. One of the etiquettes when you're in a Zoom meeting is we kind of tend to stumble over each other because we're not sure who's ready to speak first. All you've got to do is just raise your hand, and the teacher's going to see you on the screen, and so they'll give everybody a call to know that when they're ready to come up. Then we've got the chat box. Use it, don't abuse it. So the purpose of that chat box that's going to be available in your meetings, that's where you're asking questions. It's not for socializing. I know we always say during class when you're here, put the phone away. We don't need to have your phone out. But if there's something going on and you're texting with a friend, there's a time and place for that. And that's on your phone. That's not in the chat box. The chat box is for asking questions for your teacher. And then finally, in those Google Meets is let's make sure we're focusing. And so we've already talked about this a little bit. You want to limit the background distractions, and you want to use headphones to make sure that your teacher and your fellow classmates can focus on what's going on. All right, email communication. This is a big one here. Some of the do's of email is include a relevant subject line. So first of all, don't leave it blank. Make sure that you're putting just a few words in there. Say it's about the biology assignment from Friday, or it's about the thesis statements, it's about the warm-up. So just use 1 or 2 words, very brief, but also something specific. When you reach out to a teacher, and this has probably already happened to you, you get a lot of back and forth sometimes if you're not specific. Don't reach out to a teacher and say, I needed some help with that assignment this week. There might have been 3 or 4 assignments that week, so let them know which assignment you are talking about. The last one on the do is update your signature. So when I'm emailing students right now, I see a lot of students that have the nice, cute signature at the bottom, but they say, Bernal Middle School, 7th grade, and I know that I'm working with a 10th grader right now. I was working summer school the past few weeks, and I even had a student who the subject lines or the signature line still said 3rd grade. So that one's been there for a while. So let's make sure you update your signature. And we're living in this digital age where it's okay to have fun with it. Go and put something interesting. A lot of teachers like to put a quote in there. In mine, I used to be an English teacher, so my signature line includes the books that I'm reading right now. So what's something important to know about you? We're trying to build these relationships and get to know you a little bit more. And that's one really small way that's easy to get to do that. Some of the things to make sure that we avoid when we're talking about email communication is we want to avoid using slang or text talk. Remember, guys, this is professional communication. So we're not just talking to a friend here. I know that your teachers that have been on right now, we're saying it's, we want to talk about building relationships with you guys, building a sense of community, but understand that this is still a professional environment. Please avoid being demanding. So what that means is, I need you to put that grade in today. There is a much better way to go about that, and it's inquiring about what the status is, or is there something maybe that I'm missing? So you want to give that teacher the benefit of the doubt. Let's avoid being demanding. And sometimes demanding comes across when you use all caps. You've probably heard this before, but we do not use all caps because that means that we're yelling at somebody whenever we type that. So keep that in mind. And then the final one is, please do not type your entire message in the subject line. Like I said, in the do's list, use a relevant subject, 1 or 2 words, just a short phrase will do, and then type out your entire specific message in the actual body of the email, please. I have had to communicate with students that we're using the entire subject line for an email, and it actually gets very confusing when you're trying to follow the conversation. Okay, number 4 is, let's make sure we're sticking to a routine. So this is where I talked earlier about things like the backpack and the snacks. We're going back to school hours, guys. We're talking Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And so you want to make sure it's almost time to start setting your alarm again. Those of you whose schedules have been completely swapped and you are, staying up until 3 or 4 in the morning and you're not waking up until noon to get stuff done, that's going to have to change. I know we set today's schedule to start at 1 because we're kind of got used to that. We know that you guys are sleeping in a lot and we wanted to catch you in the afternoon. But it is time to start resetting your clock, set that sleep schedule once more, because come August 24th, first period, when that, I guess you could say metaphorical bell rings, it's time to log in with your teacher. Earlier, I said your dedicated space should not have snacks there. That's because something that you really need to keep in mind is that you want to take brain breaks. And, we probably should have made it a little bit more clear in the beginning, and I hope wherever you are right now, you are getting up and you're standing up and you're taking a quick break. You're grabbing some water whenever you need to. We as teachers know you cannot sit still for, 10, 15 minutes sometimes, and that's perfectly okay. Your brain actually needs to be stimulated with that oxygen of you moving around. So take a snack break, stretch your legs, step outside even and get some fresh air. I know it's really hot right now, but fall is right around the corner, and so we'll get there. But taking a break is not avoiding the work. It's the same thing. Let's be honest, guys, when you're here on campus during a regular school year, sometimes you say, hey, can I get up to go to the restroom? And really, you just want to get up to go stretch your legs. Or you didn't really need to get up and go to the pencil sharpener, but you just wanted to get up and move around. That's perfectly fine. The same still applies. I think we tend to sometimes get, we lose track of time, especially if you're doing something fun. If you're at home playing video games in front of a computer or device, you can look up at the clock and realize, 2 or 3 hours has passed. So when you're working on your school stuff, the same thing applies. Make sure you're taking a break. It's going to be important to stick to a routine. And so one thing you want to do is get a calendar. When you log into Schoology, you're going to have a calendar that's there on the screen. But sometimes some of you just do a little bit better with a printed copy of it. Even just maybe have Post-its sticking around the house. That way I've got to get this done by Friday. But make sure that routine comes to play. The last one here is mindset. We want to make sure that we stay positive. It's going to be easy to get frustrated because we're all brand new at this. But guys, your teachers are brand new at this also. You want to stay positive. Somebody even said earlier that make sure you find humor in things. We were recently in a meeting, in fact, with Miss Craig, and somebody's dog was barking in the background. So she said, okay, let's see. And, they brought their dachshund up into the screen, and we all sat and talked about how cute it was, and we laughed. But then we put the dog down, we got back to work, and we refocused. But that small little break that we were able to take and just laugh with each other, it makes the time go faster. So those things that we would normally be doing when we're here with our friends, it's still okay to look for that during the day. So keep that in mind. Positive attitudes. Don't let this new surrounding get you down. And then our last tip that we have for you is find an accountability partner. So I would even suggest some of you grab your phone right now if you can and take a picture of this here. Send this message to somebody and it says, I'm going to start distance learning soon and I might need some motivation or reminders to check my calendar. Can I count on you to text me a reminder once a week? Arthur Solis was one of the students on the alumni panel, and he spoke on this. He said, I had to let go of those friends who were holding me back and weren't contributing to the future I knew I wanted for myself. That starts in just a couple of weeks for you. On August 24th, when we're coming back to school, you're gonna want to make sure that you've got people that you can count on, whether we're here in person or you're at home. And so being at home, if you've got somebody who's gonna send you a message every once in a while, find a friend or family member that you know you can count on that wants to see you succeed, and ask them to send you this message, or ask them to just send you something funny and say, keep your spirits up. I know things might be tough right now. Do this for some other friend. Maybe you have a small group that you're part of a group chat already. And don't be afraid to be the person in the group who's the first to speak up and say, let's do this together. Let's make sure we help each other out, because you're gonna need to make sure that you've got a support system. And then within that support system, oh, we lost one here. There you go. Form a study group with friends. So maybe set up a virtual time during the week that everybody's gonna get together. This goes back exactly what the alumni panel said. It's gonna be difficult to get through this on your own, and you might not realize who you need when you need them and just how supportive your friends can be. So if you think you're gonna be at home for those first 2 weeks of school and stick it out on your own, be successful and struggle, and quite frankly, guys, the teachers are going through this also. We've been at home all summer, and we have to get on just casual Zoom meetings or group chats and remind each other, you've got this. What can I help you with? There's been plenty of times where I will reach out to friends and say, here's the problem I'm having with this activity I'm trying to set up for kids. What ideas do you have? Please don't be afraid to reach out to your friends in the same manner, because if you know they're sitting in the same class with you, they're having the same problems that you're having. They're going through the exact same situation as you. So be there to help each other, not only to stay positive, but to stay on track with your academics, because they're very important.